The voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying. You don't want to miss this unique, informative audience participation, light-hearted show with lots and lots of Cayman jokes, culture, and guests. As we talk about things we say and do, it happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
See what I'm saying is a special feature of Talk Today, jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman. A language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
See what I'm saying? Begins right now.
Already, Ray Banker in the house.
Mr. Ray. Barely.
Just barely. And we have the wonderful company of the illustrious Norman boy. Mr. Norman, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm pretty good, Sterling. It's good to join you and Ray on this. See what I'm saying?
You're saying that now, wait till after.
And I must say that Paulette does a good job of advertising this show. And this is the first time I've had the pleasure to be on it.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly aware that it exists and it has been around for quite a while.
Yeah,
and I hope that it continues to generate a lot of interest and support.
Well, thank you for that. And I must share that this stemmed from a conversation that Ray and I were having back and forth on, language and just. And I keep
really.
Yeah, I keep saying to this fella, he has not just a passion, not just an interest, but
obsession.
That too, but a great intellect. And then he'll go and he'll find stuff. So I say, Ray, that's research.
See, we Westerners now used to hear that word intellect, It's not comfortable for us.
You know, Sterling, every generation has grown up with certain characters.
Characters, huh?
And when I grew up, we had one named Brady, that we called, and I think it was Kim Brock.
Uh-huh.
And every sentence or mate, he used to say, see what I mean?
See what I mean?
And see what I'm saying is in the same similar interpretation.
Exactly.
It was intended to generate emphasis that you're serious about what you're saying is not stupidness.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got to have you on more,
Yes.
We got to have when you've been around as long as I've been.
Man, I think Mr. Norman would say, boy, he's been around so long that Methuselah, we call him Uncle.
I don't think I'll get that close. Couple more years.
But we really appreciate you coming on, and I say to Ray all the time that I hope people, especially those at the higher end of the pecking order of the food chain, understand the amount of work that he puts in. I just had to put up with me alone. He chased me down last night. I'm heading home, and he must have knew I was in the supermarket trying to find something to eat.
I stalk you, You don't know that. I'm a stalker.
He is on the ball. So.
he's a very renowned artist. And I think that.
All right. See you guys later.
That goes back. That goes back to the Andrews.
Okay.
I know
think so. Yeah.
I know his family history pretty well.
Can you talk about that publicly?
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah.
I keep telling people he was almost my father.
Right. He hails from the Andrews that came here from America many years ago, and they were they could sing and they could paint, and they married and came on, and it was a very prominent family.
I got to talk to you more. I didn't know about the singing part.
Yeah. But,
because I don't got that part.
You have
I played the radio.
I think you have a grandaunt, might even be an aunt, Hattie.
Yeah.
And she had a beautiful voice. I know it from church.
That. Okay.
She used to sing in the chapel Church of God where I attended when I was growing up. So you're a family of many talents.
I got to talk to more. And then the West Bay side got more other stuff.
Right. They're the resilience, huh?
Yeah.
Right,
they got something.
But you said Andrews, back in, was it the 20s, Andrews sisters?
They were singers too.
They were singers too. 20s, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
That's the 60s? Sorry, 20s, right?
Yeah.
No, I can't remember. Maybe it's the 60s?
No, the 20s, I believe. The Andrews sisters.
You're right.
And they would be, whatever that was called.
I have to check into that. I mean, we've got some fiery ones on that side, Found some more information.
Yeah.
Taking back all the way to Virginia.
it's interesting when you think of aviation, and in particular, we have different pockets of history. I've always been fascinated by airplanes. Airplanes.
So can we introduce him? Do people know why he's on? One of the reasons he's on? Aviation.
We were getting to that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, no.
Well, I can tell you who I am.
Yeah.
My name is Norman Bawden.
Yeah.
And I would say that I know quite a bit about the development of air services and aviation in the Cayman Islands. I spent 26 years at Owen Roberts Airport working as the station manager for Lax Airlines, the manager for Cayman Brac Airways, and I was the managing director of Cayman Airways for 12 years, from 1968 till 1980. And then I went into politics, was honoured to be elected as the first elected member for Georgetown, and I served 8 years in Executive Council, which is now called Cabinet, and Cayman Airways was my subject and my responsibility while I was a member of Cabinet. So I have a very, very personal, close relationship and feeling for Cayman Airways.
And like that passion. That's what I'm saying. When we think of aviation,
and it's 50 last year it was 50.
Yeah,
last year they celebrated their 50th. And as far as the development of Owen Roberts Airport is concerned, as you know, that was started in 1952, but maybe not let us get ahead. Don't let me do all the talking and get ahead of that, because that's how politicians are. They like to have all the say. At least some of us. But flying machines in the Cayman Islands back in the 40s was something that attracted a lot of attention and interest. And in thinking about the history of aviation, that started with King Parker, who was a Canadian, and the airplanes played a very prominent role in World War II. And after World War II, there was a surplus of airplanes in the markets in the US and Canada and elsewhere. And a lot of these smaller countries bought these surplus aircraft and started an airline. In fact, that's how Laxa got started. But King Parker started what was called a Jamaica Air Transport, I think, in the beginning. And Mr. Dukan Marin was one of the directors of the board. And they sold shares in this airline for about 10 shillings a share, I believe.
And I looked it up. I think about 10 shillings, is that about $5 today?
That would be...
would that be about right?
10 shillings would be about $5. A shilling was, 10 cents?
So anyway, about $5 today.
Anyway, my calculations not working around today.
Don't worry.
Mr. Dukan Marin was a director of the board, and the company ran in financial problems, and so he went up to Tampa to try to sort it out. And there he met Wing Commander Owen Roberts, and then he became involved in servicing the Cayman Islands with air services, with a PBY, a Catalina, landing in the North Sound. And I think that goes back to the beginning as far as the Cayman Islands is concerned, and of course from there on, then the story of the airport started in 1952. It was completed in 1953, and it was officially opened in 1954. I went to work for Lax Airlines back in 1955. So the development of air services really started from there, and of course after the tragedy that they had with Wing Commander Wayne Roberts in April of 1953, where several Caymanian families lost 2 or 3 family members in that crash. And of course, after that, then government was very concerned about trying to get an airline, because tourism was on the horizon and was in its infancy. And unless you can provide good, safe, dependable air transportation, your tourism cannot grow. And so LACSA and BWIA started providing scheduled air services twice a week mostly. BWIA originating in Trinidad and LACSA in those days originating in Panama. And then they would stop here and go from here to Havana to Miami. So that's how really the services got started. And of course, you know, Kim and Brock will not be outdone. So they got together, many of their citizens, and with the help from Commissioner Gerard and Ira Smith, they got a few funds together, and the people basically built in Kim and Brock that airstrip. And Kim and Brock Airways then was formed in April of 1955. And that then operated until 1968. In fact, it was Kim and Brock Airways that commenced the service to Jamaica. Those days we used to fly with a 8-passenger Beechcraft, Grand Cayman, Kim and Brock, Montego Bay. And after operating that for a few years, then we got a DC-3 for Kim and Brock Airways and used to operate from here to Kim and Brock to Kingston. So that was how that service got started. And then Cayman Airways was formed then in 1968 because government felt that it was time for it to become more involved to ensure air transportation to and from and within the Cayman Islands, because Kim and Brock had to have an air service. And you know, when I think of the sometimes comments that are made about we having so many airlines servicing us now, we wonder for the need of Cayman Airways. But the difference between Cayman Airways and foreign air carriers is that Cayman Airways provides a guaranteed air service to and from and within the Cayman Islands. And the route from here to Kim and Brock and Little Cayman has always operated at a loss because the volume of traffic is low, and you're not going to get any foreign airline other than Cayman Airways willing to provide an inter-island service. So in a nutshell and in a very short space of time, that is what I see it and what my involvement was.
Well, as I was saying, I mean, when you think about aviation history, Mr. Norman, there are a couple of the names that are synonymous, you know, with it, you know, from the Cayman context. A few things that I would mind at some point maybe we get to is always this. I see the independence of the Cayman Brock people, and that impetus with Cayman Brock Airways, and then the sort of, I want to say the evolution of Cayman Airways. Does the Cayman Brock Airways and what is Cayman Airways two separate entities, or was one molded into the other?
Cayman Brock Airways was the forerunner of Cayman Airways. That operated until 1968, and then government formed an agreement with LACSA Airlines where there was a 51%. Government had 51%, and LACSA had 49%. So that replaced Cayman Brock Airways. And in fact, it was in 1972 that Cayman Airways had its first permit to operate a service to Miami. And as time went by, government became more involved and financially responsible for the airline, where it was moved from a 49-51 to a 6-40. And then in 1978, government took full control of Cayman Airways at that stage and was responsible for it financially ever since.
The transition of our name Cayman Airways on the planes, because I remember we get on, it was a LACSA flight, you know, to Miami. When did that sort of happen? The decals and that.
But first, how did actual LACSA get here? Why did it? Was it
I tell you how
refueling?
I tell you how LACSA got here.
Because it's a Costa Rican airline.
Yeah. Back in those days, LACSA used to operate a C-46, which is a cargo aircraft, a Curtiss C-46. That used to take loads of meat and vegetables and fruit and different commodities that the Costa Rica had to export to the U.S. market. before we had an airport, they used to go from San Jose to Belize to Miami, because by stopping in midway, that enabled them to take a bigger payload out of Costa Rica. But when we got an airport, LACSA used to fly overhead Grand Cayman en route to Miami, and they started to use it as a refueling stop so that they could take bigger loads out on that. And then from there, actually, the government approached BWIA about starting a service to Cayman Brac, and they said they could not afford to get involved in an affiliate. And Cayman Brac Airways was a wholly owned subsidiary of LACSA Airlines, and it was supported by government to the tune of £4,000 or £5,000 a year or something like that. Again, a very small subsidy.
In the 60s.
Yeah, but that was owned by LACSA.
But that's a lot of money still, though, in the 60s.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
So that's how LACSA became involved. And I don't want to take all the conversation.
Oh, no. This is why we learned.
But I have to tell you, the first day that I went to work at the airport for LACSA, and a lot of these stories you can laugh at today, but when it happened, it was a serious matter. So the day that first day I worked at Owen Roberts Airport was a very eventful day for me, because Texaco had a big underground tank which they stored with aviation fuel, and they had a sport gasoline motor that used to pump it into the aircraft. And this day, the gasoline pump caught on fire, and everybody thought it was going to be a big explosion. Junior Ebanks was painting the top of the terminal. The terminal, as you know, was old barracks that were transferred from behind the library where the U.S. had during the war.
We didn't know that.
And you're talking about Caymanians being able to improvise. That building was put on rollers and taken from behind the library to Owen Roberts Airport.
Well, so I didn't know that the barracks, the actual naval base barracks, became the airport.
Of a terminal, which was a wooden terminal. Anyway, it was very low level. But Junior Ebanks worked at the airport, and he was painting it. But when the fire broke out, of course, everybody took to the airstrip to get away from the terminal and all the fire and stuff, because it thought it'd be a big explosion. Junior jumped off the top, and one of his feet landed in a paint pan. But he never stopped to take the paint pan off. He just kept running towards the terminal, towards the airstrip from the terminal. And Mr. Winston Watler was the customs officer. And I believe in trying to get to the airstrip, he bypassed Junior. He went so fast. So you look back at it and laugh. The good part about it was we had a porter named Dagon, who was Dege, and he went into the where the engine was on fire and cut the valve off that would have drawn the fuel, the aviation fuel, from the tank below, and that stopped the fire and stopped.
So you were looking at a major incident.
Yeah, that could have been a tragedy.
Yeah,
but that you look at it now and you laugh about it, but of course it was serious back in those days.
Well, it took a cow to kick over a can that caused the Chicago. Anyway, Susan, let's pay attention to her.
We got to do these clip things. Yeah. These clips and ads.
Yeah. We're going to pause and take a break. Mr. Norman Boyden is not only going to give us a wonderful, colourful history, but to remind you why there's such a resolve and resilience in our people. Please stay tuned for more COSA.
Be hard to burn.
Kirk Freeport is inviting local customers to view the highly exclusive Patek Philippe one-of-a-kind unique traveling collection of watches. The collection will be in Grand Cayman for just 1 week before it's whisked off to its next destination, and features a collection of unique, rare timepieces from the last family-owned Genevan luxury watch manufacturer. Visit Kirk Freeport's Bayshore Mall location between Friday the 25th and Thursday the 31st of January to view the Patek Philippe traveling collection in Cayman for 1 week only. Visit KirkFreeport.com for more information.
Tune in to the Super Jam show this Friday, that's today, from 4 until 6 p.m. as Radio Cayman will bring you coverage of the 2019 launch of the Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzarama fundraiser, live from Mango Tree. Also find out how you can enter in the drawing for CI $250.
Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water. Flowers offers free weekly delivery to your home or office and is available at select gas stations and convenience stores. Flowers bottled water, the original Cayman Islands bottled water since 1974. Flowers bottled water carries the Certificate of Excellence in Manufacturing Award. Flowers bottled water. Call them at 949-8688. From Flowers bottled water and the Flowers Group of Companies, have a Happy New Year and lots of blessings to all.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
National Heroes Day is a time to celebrate our history, heritage, and be inspired for the future.
This year, we are honoring the people who pioneered the establishment of our first national symbol, the coat of arms, celebrating our journey to modern-day Cayman, and recognizing organizations who served our community for over 50 years.
The ceremony begins at 9 a.m. on National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th, at Heroes Square in Georgetown, with live entertainment and refreshments following the celebrations.
For more information, contact National Events at gov.ky or call 244-3612.
This National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th.
Show your national pride
and celebrate Cayman
as we pay tribute to our national heroes.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
How would you describe Siwa Sayin?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Siwa Sayin.
Doing these jobs. Is it?
Yes, she's got us back in, man.
We're here?
You better pay attention.
You gotta tell people
in the
that.
house.
And we will pick that up.
All right. Welcome back to Siwa Sayin.
Yeah.
As Ray revises his notes, and we had to
come back. So
the great company, Mr. Norman Borden. Sir, thank you very, very much.
So what were we going to ask him? Oh, I know we're going to ask you. You were saying that the history of it sort of started with the naval base. Obviously, the landing, the PBY stuff in the early 40s. Early 40s? Yeah, 42, I think 43 was what we...
Yeah.
We did 2 shows on it. I should remember the dates, but I've got an incident where there's an aircraft that landed on the beach, like in West Bay Beach.
Yeah, that was, according to the record, that was 1948.
Oh, so that's after naval base.
Yeah.
But that might have been the first landing, though.
It probably was. It probably was. Because the first landing that I remember, and I was probably about 8 years old then, so that was a long time ago. But the first time I remember ever seeing an airplane land in Cayman, there was an American couple living here in Grand Cayman at the time, and his wife became ill. And I think he must have gotten communications to the American consulate or some people in authority, either in Florida or Jamaica or elsewhere, and they sent a PBY from Guantanamo Bay that landed in the Georgetown Harbor to pick this lady up and fly her to Miami for medical treatment. And to the best of my recollection, that is the first time I ever saw an airplane land in Grand Cayman waters. But, you know, Ben Ross was the refueling foreman, and he was involved with King Parker, with Wing Commander Wayne Roberts from the very beginning. And if you wanted to really hear some tales, he's gone now, but I worked with him for many, many years, and he had a lot of stories that he could tell about being tied onto the PBY and having to cut the rope and things like that for him and Ira Thompson to survive. But I was at the airport.
We gotta get back to that story.
Yeah, I was at the airport when you spoke a while ago, Ray, about accidents and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the airport the day that the PBI went down in the North Sound. I think Marion Patton, one of the Patton girls, was going to college,
and that was after war. That was past the
Oh,
naval
yeah.
base. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's like the commercial.
That would have been in 1951 or 52, I think, and that's a plane that was still there. But what they say really happened, the hatch was left open and it filled with water. And when he tried to take off, the plane was tail heavy and they couldn't get airborne. And Benny played a very important role. All of those passengers, there were no injuries. We've been very fortunate in aviation. You know, when I went to work for LAXA, Peter Hales Coleman, an Englishman, was the manager for LAXA at the time, and I replaced him eventually. And he said to me, Mr. Borden, one thing you must always remember, aviation is a very unforgiving business. You can't make mistakes there because you pay a high price. And, you know, I've never forgotten that. And I remember poor old Ben Ross, the way he scrutinized every drop of aviation fuel that was put into an aircraft was amazing. And I mean, those days, you know, everything was very primitive. You know, the procedure he had to use took hours, but safety always came first, and that must remain the same.
Something, if I may ask, I don't, and for those who are listening, we are grateful to the company, Mr. Norman Borden, but as you know, he is incredible business, so we won't get the full, 15 hours of him today, so we'll take as much as we can. But Cayman's maritime history, without question, is unparalleled. We know it, we see it from the guys in the catboats going over to build the Flagler Railroad. Personally, the maritime is easy to understand. We're an island, we see the seafaring. The aviation aspect always intrigued me because, well, planes in the early days.
But they transferred though. I mean, they got some of the names of the plane and everything are similar to naval. They got an aft. They got
fair enough. Like, but what I'm saying is that here you have this little island,
and it's maybe safety too, because the sea is kind of not forgiving either.
There's similarities, but how do we end up with such a almost to the same extent of our maritime history, the same aviation history, and it continues today?
They always say necessity is the mother of invention. And as three small islands, air transportation was very, very important to its continued growth and development. If we were not in a position back in even those late 40s and early 50s to provide good, safe, dependable air transportation, time is money. They say that even today. We would have never experienced the tourism growth and the business. We focus a lot on tourism, but our financial services industry is one of the main pillars of our economy. And I always said when I was a Minister of Tourism, it was really hard for me to differentiate between a bona fide tourist and a businessman, because most of the time they combine vacation with business, and I still think that happens. But the development of air services to and from and within the Cayman Islands was of critical importance to our growth and development. You see, the maritime thing came about. Another thing with Caymanians improvising and knowing how to survive. We had a lot of mahogany trees in this island, and they built their boats. They made their sails, and they sailed them to Key West, to Isle of Pines, to Jamaica, and
East Coast of the U.S.
I don't want to belabor the point, but my father-in-law was Mr. Elroy Arch, and the grand old house was built by a lawyer from Boston by the name of Mr. Lambert. That was back in the early 1905 or whenever it was. So I asked him one day, I said, how would a lawyer from Boston be interested in coming to the Cayman Islands? He said, well, son, we built our boats. We sailed them to Boston, loaded them with spruce, and sailed them back here to build our homes. Yeah. And he became interested. He became a merchant. He built Petra Plantation and was a businessman here, and after a while he moved to Jamaica. But, the Cayman Islands have a very, very interesting history, and sometimes even people as old as I am take it for granted and don't have time to reflect on where we came from and how we got where we are today.
Yeah.
But it was those people that laid the foundation that we're reaping from today.
Yeah. And the reason I certainly don't want to pull it, but when we were looking at this particular topic, and planes, I think, fascinate many of us, without question. But I've always, I can see the parallels between aviation and maritime, without question. I understand the importance of having, reliable, safe airlift for everybody. But the notion that if you look around the Caribbean specifically, even the bigger islands that were at that time not independent, and even today that are, they're not as poised with their aviation as we are. Back then, they were bigger, probably more resource, but they didn't capitalize.
That's
they
what
didn't
I'm telling
have.
you. That's why I see the nautical.
What happened, Sterling, is that you mentioned the maritime a while ago. I was thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But with Cayman Airways coming into operation and getting established here, and especially as a national flag carrier, Caymanians like Churchill Borden, Rex Miller, Kennedy Patton, George Thompson, I think I mentioned him, and Harrison Bothwell, instead of turning their eyes to the sea to become a boat captain, they turned their eyes to the skies to become an airline pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And bit by bit, Cayman Airways today has the majority of their pilots are Caymanian pilots, Caymanian crew members.
Oh, I remember making note of that.
Who I must say, even putting in a little spot here from, they do an excellent job.
True.
Yeah, I think Cayman Airways crew deserve a lot of credit because the success of Cayman Airways, they account for a great deal of success in Cayman Airways.
But that's one of those jobs that you don't hear about them until something goes wrong.
Right.
And you don't appreciate them till.
Well, you don't realize how much you miss them until you're not there.
Yeah, I made note of that. Like I said, all of these pilots are all Caymanians. How are they doing that? Because we can't do nothing.
That's right.
We're not good at nothing.
All right. So as we go through it, but it's amazing. Whether it's the East Coast, whether it's even to as far as Europe, because we see our history, we're talking about trading.
But his Boston notation, note that he made, I'm finding a lot of connections going way back. Boston, even with Bermuda, like we're talking in 1700s even.
Yeah.
So it's not just recently, it's been there a while.
Yeah. Cayman is amazing.
Caymanians learned to improvise.
Yeah.
Ingenious one.
And they learned to make do with what they had.
Yeah.
And, we've come a long ways from that. But in our development process, we have lost some of the good qualities that our forefathers had, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Ray, as we look at aviation history, and I've gone through most of the notes, and reading the stuff that Ray presents.
Should we go do a clip?
Yeah, why not?
Can we do a clip?
Miss Susan?
Can we do a clip?
Yeah.
The number one there.
Can we play the clip? The number one, yeah.
The number one, the N.
Yeah, we found this thing in this. Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Norman. See what you make of this.
We've got a clip from somebody too that maybe you might recognize.
It's all thanks to the National Archive.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So Susan, Ray, what do you want to think? You want to just play it?
I'm just checking to see if it's ready.
Yeah. Let's see what it says.
But back in those days, when you think of the terminal that we had to operate out of the airport, and there was no fencing at all, there was just a thatched hut was the sort of waving gallery, and there were no fences, and airplanes were such a new means of transportation to Caymanians that people would go to the airport, nearly half the population, just to see the airplane land and take off. And I think they were so well disciplined too. I always think of how disciplined they were. They would stand in lines, and even though there were no fences, they wouldn't go onto the tarmac unless there was maybe some emergency or something. But normally, under normal circumstances, they all stood up and watched the plane land, and the passengers get off and take off again, and then they would leave and go back home. It was a real event, back in those days, and it was only like probably 2 or 3 flights a week. But Laxey used to operate a service from San Jose Grand Cayman, Havana, Miami on Mondays. Then they would overnight and come back on Tuesdays, Miami, Havana, Grand Cayman, San Jose. Then they did the same thing on Thursday and Friday. And I think shortly after that, BWIA came in, and that's where I met Tommy and Olga Adams.
Right.
And Richard Arch, of course, worked for BWIA. At the same time, I worked for LACSA. And I guess the idea for Cayman Brac Airways was that I think Commissioner Gerard felt that there should be a service to Cayman Brac, and he was very good friends with Peter Hales Coleman, who was the agent for LACSA, and they went to Costa Rica, and LACSA decided that they would provide a service to Cayman Brac, and that was the creation, I guess, of startup of Cayman Brac Airways, and that was actually the year before I went to work for LACSA and Cayman Brac Airways, and they then provided that service, and then later on they added Little Cayman, and the airstrips there were built by the residents of those islands by hand, because they had very little equipment, and they built those airstrips. And originally Cayman Brac had like 3,000 foot runway, which was just merely marginal for them to operate there. And of course the service there started with a Cessna T-50, which was made of Irish linen and very, very, very fragile structure, I think. And Captain Guillermo Sucla, who was a Spaniard, he was the first one to start the service there. And
he was like the pilot, you mean?
He was the pilot, and he operated. He was the pilot, and they did flights like twice a week. They could only carry like 6 passengers, and if there was any cloud in the sky, he would cancel the flight right at the airport. And from that then it went to, I think, an Aero Commander with 8 passengers, and then they got Captain Wilbert Bigler, who was an American, and he operated. He was station manager and pilot, and of course I worked along with him. And then we ended up with a Beechcraft, which is known as a C-45G, and that carried about 8 passengers. And from there we went to the DC-3, which carried 28 passengers.
Wow.
And the service really grew based on demand, and tourism was starting to develop. And then the Cayman Brac Airways service Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Then in about 65 or 66, 67, somewhere around there, probably in 67, the director of civil aviation at that time was Mr. Chadwick, an Englishman, and he, there was always the problem of our tourism developing, and the airlines, BWIA and LACSA, who serviced us, their main thrust was to help tourism grow in their respective countries, and the needs were arising for Cayman to have more control over its tourism development, and to, I guess control might not even be the right word, but to ensure that we maintained a good quality air service to encourage people to come here and visit us. And Mr. Chadwick thought that it would be a good idea for LACSA and government to get together and start up an airline which would give government a greater measure of control over air services to and from and within these islands. And Chadwick got together with with Otto Escalante, who was the president of LACSA at the time, and of course got great support from Eric Bergstrom as our director of tourism, and Mr. Warren Conley back in those days. He was the first member of Executive Council for Tourism. They were all supportive of this and interested in it, and I think that was the nucleus from which Cayman Airways was started, and they got together, and it was started with LACSA owning 49%, I believe, and government owning 51%, to show that government had the control and interest.
This was when it became called Cayman Airways?
Yes, and that was August of 1968 that Cayman Airways came into being.
What? I was listening.
You recognize that person?
And I have to tell Ray, if I ever have the pleasure of getting on the show again, I had to check him out as good as he checked me out.
I was just going to say we were fax checking in these day and age. We want to make sure that lined up. 20 years ago, that was a recording.
I'll tell you another thing. You asked me at the beginning about my accent. Well, that accent originates in the part of Georgetown known as Whitehall.
Whitehall.
That's how we speak. And years ago, Virginia and I were at the Dadeland Mall, and we were talking to each other, and some American lady got up, and this was all due respect to the Americans, not meaning to be disrespectful to anyone, but she got up and asked me, she said, and what language are you all speaking? I said, we are speaking English with a Caribbean accent. What language are you speaking?
Oh, we love it.
But
it's not too many people. In your day, growing up, were there a lot of people that spoke like you?
Oh yes.
So it's South.
You really spoke like your parents and grandparents.
Yeah.
And I know I've always been accused that we speak English like the Mexicans speak Spanish. We drag our words
exactly.
and pronounce V's with W's and W's with V's. And that is true. I don't get insulted about that. I'm a Caymanian and I speak like a Caymanian.
That's very good of you.
The only other person that distinctive to me that I remember is Miss Rosie at the bakery.
Oh, yeah.
Is she related?
Yeah, no. No, she's a Thompson.
Oh, gee. So it's Thompson's too. Can I help?
Yeah, that's right.
But I consider like a South Sound accent, but she said Whitehall, and that's close to Dixon and all that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's where Lobster Pot is, in that area.
The Whitehall.
Where the catboat place is.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is true. But as a Caymanian, three of us, I'm sure the three of us can listen to another Caymanian and tell what district that they are from.
Well, I know that two of you don't come from the same district. You come from different planets.
But that's the beautiful part, right? And I think, as Ray and I were looking at, the whole idea of our history, our language is so indicative. As you said, Mr. Norman, this person not only from which district, but sometimes even from the specific part of districts are very distinct.
Right, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he's a Mount Pleasanter, and I'm
I'll tell you a story during a break about the encounter we had with the family. I thought
I still got headache from that.
So you think it's when we come back from the break, I'll share it with you. But that clip you heard was the compliments of our national archive,
and that was Mr. Norman 20 years ago.
20
years, yeah. That 19. That's
1998, right?
98 is 20 years now.
I was a fairly young man then.
There you go.
Me too.
Well, we'll pause and take a break. When we come back, we'll still continue. We still have a few more minutes with the good company of Mr. Norman Borden. Please stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs, and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
It's big news from the governor at a reception at Government House on Thursday night. Following a recruitment competition, His Excellency Martin Roper's position has been made, quote, substantive, and he will now serve a full 4-year term as governor. Until Thursday, Mr. Roper had been appointed on a temporary basis after the previous governor, Anwar Chowdhury, was recalled by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office back in June. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Intensifying delays at the nation's airports and widespread disruptions across the federal government instilled new urgency today into efforts by U.S. President Donald Trump and Congress to bring a resolution to the 35-day partial shutdown. The world's busiest airport, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, was experiencing long security waits, a warning sign the week before it expects 150,000 out-of-town visitors for the Super Bowl. The Venezuela opposition leader, who has declared himself the nation's rightful president, is telling supporters that if he is arrested, they should continue to protest. Juan Guaido told thousands gathered at a plaza in Caracas today that if security forces dare to detain him, his supporters should stay the course. And former Trump advisor Roger Stone says he believes his arrest in the special counsel's Russia probe was politically motivated, and he's vowing to plead not guilty and fight the charges. Stone spoke to reporters after he was released from a Florida courthouse today. He's been charged with witness tampering, obstruction, and lying to Congress. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
The 15th annual Cayman Economic Outlook returns on February 28th for another year of educating, informing, and stimulating the local community, bringing together industry thought leaders and business professionals to explore their theme, Dynamic New World, Braving the Turmoil. Speakers include economist Norina Hertz, University of Oxford professor Ian Golden, digital revolution journalist Andreas Ekstrom, biotechnology futurist Jamie Metzel, and professional surfer Mark Matthews. Tickets are selling fast. Reserve your seat at rfceo.ky.
If you are seeking a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree, the Ministry of Education is now accepting applications for the 2019 Overseas Scholarships. Give yourself the education you deserve and apply today. All scholarship applications must be submitted by January 31st, 2019. For more information on scholarships and the application process, kindly visit education.gov.ky.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Vant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vamped Motors, Walkers Road.
Siwa Sayin is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Siwa Sayin.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and special good afternoon and a sincere appreciation and all our guests, but Mr. Norman Borden particularly.
I'd like to apologize for blindsiding him like that with that clip.
No, man. I was just listening to it and wondered if my accent had improved any.
Yeah, it becomes more Caymanian.
You know what really is true though.
Yeah.
I see so many events and organizations speaking about preserving Caymanian heritage, and it is true that in our development process we have lost a lot of things that I remember when I was growing up. For example, the old fort in the centre of town has changed tremendously. A lot of the old Caymanian style homes are different. And so, you can't win them all, but you can preserve some of what you have left.
Yeah.
And as an older Caymanian, I say that with pride that the Lord has spared my life all these 83 plus years. And one thing I am still proud of is the way that I use my Caymanian accent. I don't mean to belabor the point, but as long as I speak and write English correctly and grammatically correct, I don't feel like I have to imitate somebody else's or adopt somebody else's accent in order for me to communicate properly with them. And if we're preserving other things that are cultural, it's no reason why over the period of years we should lose the way we talk. Like I said in the beginning, I was born, raised in Whitehall. That's down there just below Lobster Pot. Lots of breadfruit trees. We were the fishing village. My grandfather was a fisherman. And we were poor as Job's turkey, but we were happy the day long. And I speak like a Caymanian.
Yeah. I used to enjoy when Radio Cayman would broadcast excerpts from the different parliaments, I guess, because they would be independent nations of the Caribbean. So there'd be a little bit from this one and that one, and I could hear
the different districts. That was like a little United Nations thing.
Yeah,
North side of the West Bay. Yeah.
But you hear a little clip from, I guess it was probably through the BBC. You hear a little clip from, Bahamas, Barbados, St. Lucia, the different Caribbean islands, and the different people would be speaking. And here's a little thing when they were doing their reporting from the region. And sometimes in our own legislative assembly, I'm thinking, but I know these people, but we're not talking like us. And somehow it's unfortunate that we have misunderstood, misinterpreted, perhaps have been maligned because we choose to speak like this. So thank you for being, a stalwart.
Well, I have to be honest. At my age, you don't have to put on any airs. You can say it like it is. But while you were speaking, Dwayne,
yes, sir.
I know on 27 on Cayman News Channel 27. Before the 6 o'clock news come on, they have various bits and news of various Caribbean islands, and I listen to their anchor people. And they all speak differently. For example, when somebody from Barbados speaks, I can say they are Barbadian because that's the accent they have, and I think our accent identifies us too.
And they may have modified it. Now, I'm pretty sure some of those, when they get home and they talk to their own people, and I always say whatever accent you have when you're rowing or scared is the accent, your real accent. I'm pretty sure that they modified it. They did a standard.
But you know what is true?
But it's still there. It's not somebody else's.
Two Caymanians can communicate among themselves, amongst 10 or 15 other people. And the two Caymanians that are talking to each other are really the two that really understand what they're saying.
Yeah. It's true.
And we can talk about the other people too. I done that.
Well, you know what? It's about embracing. Mr. Ray, we got a couple of calls.
We got a couple of calls.
Yeah, let's hear what our phones.
Hey, what?
I'm on now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh, okay. So, to be honest, that's my, I can't say old, because we're not old. Long time friend, Mr. Norman. Mrs. Biggie.
Biggie?
And the people like you would know who that is.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of mosquitoes. And when the tourists coming off the plane, saw all those people standing there around, waving, they had mosquitoes. They said, what's that?
Oh, can't see.
The whole country come out to look for us, waving stuff.
That's not.
They thought what friendly people we were till the mosquitoes attacked them.
There's probably some truth to that.
Yes, sir.
No. And the gentleman worked at the airport was not too handsome.
No, I tell you that's true.
And the little girl coming off, the mother said, Mommy, look at that monkey.
Oh, no.
And he let off a few choice words, just thankfully she did not understand. But I said, Mommy, he talks too.
Jeez, no.
All right. Colourful indeed. Thank you for sharing, sir. And we'll take the call. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Dwayne, and the radio, and Mr. Norman. Certainly the perfect person.
Thank you, sir.
Here, relating all this to Mr. Norman. Wealth of knowledge. I'm glad you mentioned Mr. Benny Ross so well. He's his family to me. Mother was a need. His grandmother was a need. Also, and yes, his services was invaluable, and many people don't know the things that you've talked about there, how he came to do many important things in little incidents and so forth. And there are other Caymanians involved in the early days. Remember Miss Olis Yates and all that. She was one of the very first of the
stewardesses.
Stewardesses and Mr. Lawrence's daughter.
Isabel was the first one, and Olis was the second, Mr. Hurlston.
Yes. Though I think Olis might be older than Isabel.
She is.
I believe.
Yeah.
She is, yes. It's so interesting, and I remember those days you talk about long before Ray and Sterling days at the task force and the coming in there and Mr. Earl Wood. He was the customs, immigration, everything. And I remember traveling from Jamaica to here on my father's birth certificate. That was it. That's all I needed. I had no passport in those days. Was necessary. Just showed that who I was. My mother, Eden, my father, her. Anyhow, when you talked about the PBY and all that, many people might not know the importance of that simple Carolina there. The great battleship Bismarck was actually spotted from a PBY by an American pilot who was on loan to the British Navy. He was because America had not declared war against Germany. They were neutral still,
right?
And he could fly as a spotter, and he spotted her. And of course, the rest is history, because that simple incident could have changed the outcome, quite possibly, of the greatest war in history.
You're quite right.
It's an important little plane, because we know what
the flying boats were.
Yeah,
Mr. Eden, the flying boats were very important because they were called the sub killers too.
Yes,
and they really turned the tide.
Oh, they played a very important role.
Yeah. Mr. Norman, do you remember there was a crash? Of course, Jamaica had a lot of airlines coming in and out. Then from Longwood days, there was a crash, I believe, in 1957, but it was at Montego Bay Airport.
Yeah.
Of what they call, I think they call them super continentals.
Was it Avianca?
Oh, yes.
I think it was 60.
Yes, Mr. Hurlston. I recall that, and you know who was on that Avianca flight that crashed there, Norberg Thompson and Rex Creighton.
What? The 1960?
Yeah, they were on that flight.
That a lot of people, that's Jamaica's worst flight. I didn't realize.
Yeah, Rex Creighton and Norberg were there.
What? Because it's like 20 or 20-something or 30 people had actually died. That's Jamaica's worst.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
The one with Winkham, that was 1953 in April, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Was a long time ago. Very long time ago.
Yes.
But, with the triple-tail plane. I know they were flying into Florida as cargo planes from some of the South American
Yeah,
countries.
those triple ones you talk about with the Constellation.
Yeah. The Constellation. I'm saying the Continental. The Constellation. Super Constellation, it eventually became the bigger engines, I guess, on a longer fuselage. But I just wondered about that. Thanks for saying. I never knew that Mr. Norberg, you said,
and Rex Creighton.
And Rex Creighton, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Something new for all Caymanians to know. Keep up the good work. This is really wonderful listening to you all. Thank you so much for this program.
Thank you, Mr. Holston. And you're so rich in history yourself, you should put a book together.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. And I believe I have one other call as we join our lines. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Vera.
Hey, good afternoon.
You're on air.
Yeah, hi. If you're listening on your radio, you may find it to be a delay, so just on the phone would probably help much better.
Yeah, I already cut it off.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm from Nicaragua, but I just want to say that I always tell the boys them on the beach here in Barrington that we are so blessed to be the Cayman Islands, because many, many people want to be here and cannot. And about the accent, that's good, because you know why? Everybody is recognized by the accent, and Caymanian must be proud of their accent, because that's what it said, identify Caymanian from other people.
True,
Get it?
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. And that's important.
You actually didn't need to say that you were from Nicaragua. Is it like Corn Island somewhere, maybe,
Bluefields,
too?
man.
Bluefields?
I'm from Corn Island.
Corn Island?
See,
yeah.
Corn Island.
Corn Island.
Yep, definitely. I got a friend that says that.
No.
You know, the connection with Cayman and Nicaragua is long-standing.
Yep.
Because before the days of turtling, even Caymanians used to go to Nicaragua and work in the gold mines down there, and a lot of them intermarried, and after a while, of course, the turtling industry came along, and they used to go down to the Keys, Mosquito Keys. So the connection with Cayman and Nicaragua, family related, and always very close.
Indeed. Thanks for sharing. Anything else you want to?
I just wanted to say one thing. I always tell people I am blessed, and I thank God, and I thank the Cayman Island people. This is not hypocritical now from the mouth, but I thank God that I could have came to Cayman Island with my children them, and I thank the Cayman Island people and the government for giving me that opportunity.
Thanks for the thanks.
Yep.
Because a lot of people don't.
No, I always tell people, let them know that we are blessed.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you, man. Thank you, and for making your, very positive contribution to Cayman too. So, hopefully we get to talk to you again soon, huh?
Yeah, man.
All right.
I always listen to you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, huh? We'll talk to you soon.
We have.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
We have Mr. Norman here for a couple more minutes, I guess. But we had made some points. Two things: the hijacking, and then that plane in the Brack. You remember the one you don't know what I'm talking about? Brack?
The hijacking. I know that was a Nicaraguan flight. That's what you're talking about? And they had to land here because it was hijacked.
Mm-hmm. And we covered, they thought they were going to Cuba or something, wasn't it? So we covered their sign and everything.
Yeah.
And they landed.
Tom Holston was very much involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And That was quite an incident, and it was the first time I think we've ever had anything like that.
What years? What were we talking?
I can't remember what year it was.
And I don't want to say I forgot to write down the details, but I did.
Photos of the Nicaragua stewardess.
Yeah,
that aircraft was La Nica, which I believe was the Nicaraguan national flag carrier back in those days.
Yeah, because
and they had a picture of her standing and the hijacker
and the police behind or somebody. And somebody said that once they got the hijacker captured, they got him contained, took him inside, and somebody beat him up. Some man guy, big, maybe I don't know if it was Captain Paul. I think Captain Paul's online. He might actually be able to fill in that story. But there's some more stories about that.
Take us
so we had a hijacking. I think it must have been 70s.
It must have been, yeah.
When they were going through their communism.
It must have been in the 70s. Well, what about Kim and Brock?
There's a plane.
You want to pick up the caller first? All right, let's go to our phone first. Yeah. Hey, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks and Mr. Norman and Rebecca.
Afternoon, Cap.
This is Paul. Yeah, it's very interesting, this program. I enjoy it very much. But I wonder if anybody remembers about, and this is going way back now, 1939, a little seaplane landed up in South Sound one Sunday evening. Any of you know anything about that?
Is that anything to do with the Balboa?
No, that was with a gentleman or a family was here, and it is said that they found a treasure up at East End and had this plane come down. I hope I'm not, that Miss Mary Thompson might know something about that, because the man that was involved in that, he was staying in their house, right behind the Kentucky Fried Chicken there now in Georgetown. I think Miss Mary might be able to fill you in on some of that.
And this would be what they call Miss Mary Norberg?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think it was 1939, man, I go the way back. And it was a Sunday, I can remember that, a Sunday evening, this little plane landed in South Sound. She wasn't there too long. These people went aboard and they took off. And it said that they found, it's a story about found a treasure up in High Rock, somewhere South Sound, on Mr. Hadley Conley's property.
Read us more research for us again.
Yeah.
And by us, we mean you.
Yeah, so I just thought I would cut in and tell you all about that, because this actually happened. I know that this little seaplane landed.
And you think it's 39?
I think it was 1939. I think it was before the war. Anyhow, I'll say that.
We had brought up the hijacking too. Were you here on Ireland then?
No, I was away. I was at sea at that.
So it wasn't you then?
No, it wasn't me. Okay, I just thought I would mention that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thanks very much, man. And this is where I think Mr. Norman, you shared, and there are other people that we need, with the greatest respect. I don't wish to be insensitive. If we don't do this and we don't capture it properly and emphasize that we present it, we're going to lose not just our language, not just our food.
It is true.
But our history.
It is true.
I mean, Camp Paul has relayed that story to us, and it still fascinates me to know that aviation is so intertwined with this country.
That's right. So very important, and I think there are lots of. It's probably being done more now than in the past, but I still think that a lot more needs to be done in the schools to educate the younger Caymanians that are coming up as to where we came from and how we got where we are today. I think they do it a bit more. I know when I was...
It's not enough.
When I was in the Minister for Tourism, I used to encourage that the schools teach tourism as a subject. And I think a lot more can be done to...
They did that, I think.
I think it's done more now than when I'm talking about, and I'm not too much well equipped to discuss that, but I still feel that it should be an important part of the curriculum, that the young Caymanians that are coming up understand Cayman history, where we came from and how we got here, because for a small country we have a very intriguing and important history.
People say that all the time. You hear it actually in tourism. We have a rich cultural history, but I'm not even appreciating that until, I'm just appreciating it, I should say. So I can imagine the people that know really.
Respectful though, one of the challenges is being able to get access to the material.
Access and then also present it away.
Yeah, and then collating it so that you can put it out. It's challenging.
And I know we have 9 grandchildren, and Virginia loves to relate stories to them of how
it starts there.
Growing up. And they're always intrigued and interested in listening to how things were, and
it's not
wonder why it was the way it was, and how it changed, and things like that. Because you find a lot of interest in families.
I don't think it's a lack of interest. I think it's a lack of how you present it, and then it's not presented enough. I mean, you go Cuba, Jamaica, they have a system. They're going to they're going to bombard you with their culture. And, you got it, they come over here and they'll tell you about their history and stuff like that. We need to do that. We got tons.
What is it you say about African proverb?
Yeah, until the lion gets a historian, the hunter will always be the hero.
It's true. It is true. Now, Mr. Norman, we know that you have maybe the closing points. They came back.
Well, maybe if we could get callers too. The BRAC, there's a plane on the BRAC that's next to. I thought I heard that it was either minor crash and the people abandoned it. Maybe Keith Tibbetts may have bought it or something like that, and to refurbish it. And it's just in the side of somebody's house, and you drive across it, and there's like a plane crashed, almost looking crashed. And
I don't know, but some time ago there was a plane that crashed on the bluff that had 2 Colombians.
Oh no!
That was recent.
No. This is an aluminum plane, so people have been using it to patch things and boats and all that stuff. So it's been there from at least the 70s, at least.
No, I not
but there's a boat there too that was part of a historic voyage. Of
the Electron.
Yeah, that's been picked apart.
Yeah,
But again, things that are of not just historical value, but global importance.
Yeah,
and we just
international stuff. And
we don't.
This little speck. The other question I was going to ask you: you talked about Laksa flying over us, and you can go out in the middle of the day and you can see all these planes flying over us. That's not a coincidence, right? Are we not the last little bit of land before you get to the U.S.? I mean, you got Cuba, but
even with shipping, the Cayman Islands is in a very unique geographical position.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of the early settlers, like Virginia's great-grandfather, Mr. Arch, he was en route from Cuba, he and his brother, to Jamaica, and they ran ashore here on the reef. And there were 2 brothers, and one of them stayed here, and the other one went to Rotan. And so even in the shipping lanes, we are very close to that, and the airspace as well. A lot. This is, if you look at Costa Rica and Miami, and you strike a direct line between the two, they are very close to Cayman, and that's also true those that fly to South America and Central America. Yeah. So
I keep telling people that
I always said when I was in tourism, I don't want to keep referring to that, but. I always say that we were blessed and very successful for 2 reasons. God put the Cayman Islands in an ideal geographical location. We're right next door to the United States. We're easy access location. And the second one is that we were politically stable by being a crown colony of the United Kingdom. Of course, even that has changed, because they seem we had a lot of problems themselves.
Yeah.
But I always said those 2 things really gave us stability, and it gave us an ideal geographical location so that we have an easy access to major markets.
But the practicality of it, I tell people they come across here just in case there's any trouble.
That's right.
They need to do emergency landing. It's us.
Yeah, but we've had several aircrafts that developed problems going South America and did an emergency landing here.
Yeah, there was actually 2 deaths. I forgot that one. There was a death from just above us, but not on us because somebody had it was bad turbulence, and it was a death that
I'll
way.
be leaving shortly, but before I go, I want to tell you one about the seamen, because, we always say it, and it is true, that back when things were really tight and slow, the seamen made a big contribution to this country's economy. But some of our seamen, I remember, would wait for 6 months or a year to get a call from Southwell to go to sea. They needed a job, and their salary was $116 a month for starting out. But anyway, this friend Malachi Connor was a good friend of mine. I knew him personally. I grew up close to the neighbourhood where he was born, raised, and he waited so long to get a ship out. They used to call it. They would check with Miss Gwen at Mr. Bertaparan's office, and when the call came in, they were elated. The day for them to travel, they would stop at Captain Ben's bar or either Mr. Aldo Smith bar and have a drink before they went to the airport. This day now, it wasn't my flight because Dick worked for BWA, and this happened on BWA aircraft, but I knew it because I was there working at the airport for Lax at the same time. Anyway, there were about 10 seamen loaded on this BWA flight bound to Miami, but most of them had gone out and had a couple of drinks. The plane got on the runway, and communications those days not like they are today. When we looked, the aircraft turned around and was coming back to the ramp. Everybody rushed to the chain link fence to see what was happening as this airplane came back. And when the steps were put down, Malachi Connor walked off, waved at all those that were looking to see what happened. He said, "Now I can tell you that was a quick trip."
Well, Mr. Norman, good way to leave. Huh? Thank you, sir, for joining us. And any final thoughts, sir?
Well, just thank you both for inviting me, and I hope that I've been able to contribute something to your show. But I want to encourage you both to keep this program going. And I trust that it will grow from strength to strength and continue to be popular, because I believe it's very informative, and the general public would be interested in this program that you have. So I congratulate both you and Ray. Trust the Lord will continue to bless you and keep the program going. Keep Paulette continuing to advertise it. And I think you'll always get good support. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, sir.
Thanks so much. When we come back, we'll continue, and you got a lot more to share. Stay tuned.
540 months.
16,425 days.
394,200 hours.
45 years. That's how long we've been committed to serving you, and we won't stop there. Over the years, we have proudly grown with Cayman, making a difference in the community. That's why we're here, to stand by you.
We are Cayman National.
And we thank you for standing by us for 45 years and counting.
Hi, I'm Dawn McLean Brady, President of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, better known as CISPA. Small businesses drive Cayman's economy. As small business owners, we depend on government to create an environment where we, as entrepreneurs, can do what we do best, and that's to provide products and services that are valuable to our customers and, in turn, employ others. The cruise piers and cargo ports provide these opportunities. Encourage our government to build a port and let the Caymanian entrepreneurial spirit shine. Support the port, support our tourism.
At Flow, we know that 4 are better than 1. Introducing Flow Quad Play. Packed with the fastest, most reliable broadband, the power and control of Flow Evo TV, Cayman's best mobile experience, and tons of home phone minutes, all in one convenient package from only $199 a month. With 4 plans to choose from, you're sure to find one that fits your needs. It's value, ease, and convenience all on one bill with Cayman's #1 network. Find out why 4 are better than 1 with Flow Quad Play at discoverflow.ky. Terms and conditions apply.
The 2019 Extra Cayman Arts Festival returns with events to soothe your musical palate. February 5th through the 9th. On Tuesday, February 5th, 6 p.m. at Westin Hotel Ballroom, taking sips and sounds with the Island Brass Quintet. Thursday, February 7th, 6 p.m. at Camana Bay Cinema. See Nick Cartledge, Flute Recital, and the New York Cabaret Night at Marriott Hotel Ballroom. Saturday, February 9th, 6:30 p.m. For more information on the 2019 Extra Cayman Arts Festival and to purchase tickets, visit CaymanArtsFestival.com or you can email inquiries at CaymanArtsFestival.com or call 922-5550. The 2019 Cayman Arts Festival proudly sponsored by Butterfield, Walkers, Island Heritage, CIBC, Cayman National, Richard and Royson Addlestone, High Impact Media, Foster's and Radio Cayman.
Super Jam Showdown.
For those of you that think that gospel music has gone too far.
Positive Monday. Population Tuesday. Latino Heat Wednesday to Thursday. Back the hands of time.
Supersonic.
Day Friday Brack Party Block Top 10 Count to Female Friday.
Radio Cayman Super Jam Showdown. Weekdays 3 to 6.
Brought to you by City Wok, Cayman's newest Asian-style cuisine, the way it was meant to be.
Dine in, take out, or make your order online at citywok.ky.
Call 947-9965.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to. Give me Jesus in the morning. For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth, sing glory to His name.
Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
How would you describe Siwa Sayin?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Siwa Sayin.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a few more things to share with you, and certainly appreciate the good company of Mr. Norman giving us not only the historical perspective, but from his personal account and the notion that we see aviation, we see how it's been such a remarkable part of our early days and continues. We know the Director General over at the Civil Aviation, Director General Smith and his team continue to do a fantastic job with our registry. That's continuing today. But look at our history, some of the stories. I know we got some other things to share with you. We're going to hear from you as well. Maybe your first recollection of going on a plane or seeing a plane landing or other things. Phone lines are open as we go to our calls. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Are you there, sir?
Hello.
Yes, there you are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Good afternoon to all our listeners.
And to you, sir. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. I didn't get to catch when Mr. Norman before they departed, but the question came up about a piece of an old plane up in the bush by someone's house. I know a lot about that. That was a plane that actually ran off the runway in Cayman Brack many decades ago and was damaged, and it was condemned, and Captain Keith Tibbetts had it brought to his property, which is located on his same property now, which Mr. Nat Tibbetts lives at that house now that has that plane there. And it's like preserved there as a historical item, remembering the past of the civil aviation and one of the first planes that were bringing passengers between the islands. So it's Mr. Tibbetts takes that as very valuable thing as an antique or a historical item. And it can be seen up in the bushes just off the road, just east of the Aston Ruddy. A drive, the Bluff Road ramp, just a quarter mile east of that is where it can be seen up in the side of the bush. And about the plane that crashed on the bluff, that was a Colombian and a Mexican were both killed in the plane crash on the bluff. That's off Sunshine Drive. It's a subdivision road. And believe that the plane was going east and probably developed engine problem, and I think it was a bright moonlight night. That road is a subdivision, straight road. It might have been taken that they were trying to use that road to land on, and a light pole and some trees. They clipped the trees and then got killed actually and by impact after hitting a light pole and breaking that in two and landing up in the bushes. So that was a tragedy. Where two people was killed at one time, both occupants, pilot, co-pilot, or whoever. And that plane was taken to a site for investigation afterwards, and eventually ended up in the garbage dump, Cayman Brack, and people went and collected it for scrap metal and actually sold it for scrap metal as aluminum. Something like that I would like to have seen put somewhere in an area as a remembrance for the people. But anyway, that's how things go. Anyway, I know quite a lot about the history of Cayman Brack from the old ancestors' time, and I wanted to talk with Mr. Norman. I don't know if he may be still listening there on radio. The phosphate export from Cayman Brack, that was an interesting thing. You want to hear about that?
I think we're gonna we want to do a whole show on that phosphate thing.
Yeah, we're actually doing some research because you've seen the whole issue, and don't want to be dismissive, not disrespectful, love you, but we don't want, there's so much that we don't want to mix up all the stuff. So we're focusing on aviation specifically.
And he's talked about. Sorry, I was just out of studio.
Yeah,
but you talked about the plane. Is that the one on the
yes, the one that
side
you
of the
mentioned earlier in the bushes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you were present here in my.
He was having some challenges with it.
Wasn't able to hear all of that. And I was just saying was that part of a crash? Or was
yes, correct. I ran off the runway, Cayman Brack, and got damaged, and it was condemned. And Captain Keith Tibbetts brought it to the late Captain Keith Tibbetts brought it to his property, and that's where it's been stored.
Oh, okay, good.
Ever since.
Well, thanks for clearing that up.
It's being kept as a historical item, not to be disposed of. It remains there.
Okay, that's good to know. Right. Thank you, sir, for clearing that up.
Thanks,
that's one of the things I wanted to find out.
Again, a gentleman who has incredible knowledge, and thank you, sir. Enjoy your weekend as well. Ray, a couple more calls. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to mention just now about the money, the 10 shillings. In the old days, it was $2.50 US to the British pound.
Mm-hmm.
And the pound has 2 10-shilling notes.
But it was also inflation that we were calculating too. Like what it was worth. What it was worth back then.
No, we float with the US dollar. So $2.50 US for the British pound, and we use the British money.
Yeah.
Right.
So when we changed our money, we simply took the 10-shilling note and changed the name to a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So it was $1.25, and it still was $1.25. Or maybe it's like how one of the tourists asked a taxi driver, "How come your dollar is worth more than our dollar?" So his reply was, "Ladies, as you see, our dollar has a picture of a living queen. Yours has a picture of a dead president. That's why ours is more."
That must have went down.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for sharing again with us.
That's a very interesting one there. All my years in the meeting tourists, I never heard that one.
No, sir.
You're going to have to use it.
Explain it. Curiously, you'll only get about 75 U.S. cents when you try to change. You can change Cayman dollars at the airport in Miami. done it and with other, but you only get about 75 US cents for a Cayman dollar.
Yeah, they're making a
You
killing
only
now.
get that. I don't think you'll ever get any more than that. Anyhow, that's a rate we use for here and for exchanging and for,
but
for
when
convenience with the banking.
Sorry,
Yeah,
but a little while ago when I was making the calculations about the 10 shillings, it wasn't a straight calculation. It was also the worth of it, the
purchasing
inflation,
power,
the purchasing power of it.
Yes, and you've got to remember also that we were using the Jamaican dollar at first. And the value then, it depended on a particular day of exchange of rate and so forth. At that time, it wasn't a thing that was locked. After that, we became locked to the 80 cent hallmark. But when we converted to $1 in 1972, but in 69, when they converted to decimals from the pound, shilling, and pence, 12 shillings, they had a 2 shilling, that's florin, you had a half a crown, 2 and 6 and so forth, the crown, 5 shillings, anyhow. But they kept the same color, the blue for the 10 shilling. No, it used to be blue. And they kept that for the dollar bill for God knows how long. With what you were talking about with that hijacking, and with what my friend Mr. Raymond was saying, I remember Benny Ross, first as I see this, talking about telling me personally on a plane that ran off the runway in Cayman Brac, and it was badly damaged, but they all walked out of it unhurt.
Yeah.
And so that thing happened, I believe, maybe in the late 60s, if it's the same plane. But I remember distinctly, Mr. Bennett.
It's an aluminum one. It's an aluminum one, so I would think that would be about the time.
Aluminum planes around, and the few canvas type that Mr. Borden were talking about were old planes from the 40s, like the Side Tower or training plane that was made from canvas and doped like you do with model planes. I don't know if you guys ever made them. Made a lot of them. You had to dope them with this that stiffened the paper. They call it dope, a special chemical liquid.
How are you pronouncing that?
DOPE, that's what they call it.
Oh, dope.
You doped it with that, and stiffened it.
I thought it was like our Watling Dub, you were sort of saying.
No, yeah, I know what you mean. No, it's dope. It's a liquid, and we used to make a lot of model planes in bygone days, the young stuff many years ago. With the hijacking things, I thought that might be this plane that Mr. Raymond and Mr. Borden were talking about. I remember that one distinctly. The odd thing is I know it might have been I think it might have been in 72, that hijacking. But I remember distinctly the plane landing, and my cousin, Tommy Hurlston, did have an important part to play. I think he was up in the control tower because he spoke fluent Spanish. He's passed away now, a couple of years. And he was able to convince with the pilot permission whether the pilot spoke to him in English while the hijacker went into the cabin of the plane and was holding the stewardess hostage and so forth. And he managed to convince him that they were landing. This is how I got the story. In a very small airport instead of Havana Airport, which is what he wanted. And they had him convinced with my cousin Tommy, getting the directions from the people in the control tower, translated into Spanish, and talking to the pilot, and they had him convinced that they were landing in some small airstrip. They couldn't get to land at Havana and so blah, blah. And then he was convinced, apparently. But when they landed here and the police came out too soon from where they were hiding behind the building, and he saw the red seams on them, he knew they were not Spanish police. This is what I was told by many, many people. Maybe others who can remember the incident or more involved can remember. It's a long time ago, probably 47 years ago at least. And then he came out and he allowed, as far as I remember, because we're all there, I stood and watched it. He allowed the passengers to leave. And then he held the stewardess hostage. he at the top of the gangplank, I call it, he had her there in the door fuselage with his arm around her neck and like a gun for her head. And he allowed them to leave, and then the plane took off. And went to, I guess, the Cuba, I'm not sure, or whatever. But that is how I remember it happening. I don't think he himself came off unless there was another hijacker also involved in it, and he came off or whatever. But that is how I remember this happening. I think it might have been in late 1972. I believe it happened, but someone else may be able to call in and tell you more exact, information, give you more exact information. But I do remember that vividly. He had her holding there, and that my cousin Tommy her also directly involved in assisting to get it to land and convincing them they were landing in some small town in Cuba and so forth.
They've got a kind of iconic picture too of like the police hiding behind one of the wheels or something, sneaking up on them too.
Right.
Remember that one? Maybe call back later. We'll talk about that. The flying boat with the flying boat. Do you know anything about that one?
Great program.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks, sir. Thanks very much, man. And with that, respectfully, Ray, got to pause and take a break. So please, stay tuned.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go.
Puritan, now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. Take advantage of our ongoing discounts on all men and women's apparel. Ask about other discounts available in store. 3 convenient locations to serve you: Savannah Countryside, Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive-through, rain or shine. Free pickup and delivery available. Call Puritan Cleaners at 949-7104. You feel good when you look good.
Whether you're planning your child's next birthday party or simply looking for a social night out, look no further than Kingpin Bowling at King Sports Center.
With a range of packages and specials for bowling parties, socials, and corporate team building, Kingpin Bowling offers what no one else can. The only bowling alley in Cayman. And it's indoor fun, which means no mosquitoes, AC, and don't forget about their bowling bar. Book your bowling lanes today. Call 946-BOWL. That's 946-2495. Email kingpinbowling@candw.ky. For more information, visit their website, www.kingsportscenter.com.
King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
National Heroes Day is a time to celebrate our history, heritage, and be inspired for the future.
This year, we are honoring the people who pioneered the establishment of our first national symbol, the coat of arms, celebrating our journey to modern-day Cayman, and recognizing organizations who served our community for over 50 years.
The ceremony begins at 9 a.m. on National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th, at Hero Square in Georgetown, with live entertainment and refreshments following the celebrations.
For more information, contact National Events at gov.ky or call 244-3612.
This National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th.
Show your national pride
and celebrate Cayman
as we pay tribute to our national heroes.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
How would you describe Siwa Sayin?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Siwa Sayin.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and we invite you to be a part of our discussion here. And as we look at aviation history, and I think, as Mr. Norman set the stage for us, Ray,
yes,
even the research that you've garnered, it just shows that
I garnered something.
Yeah, garnered, yeah, nice word. People in the early days of aviation, at our airport, for instance, we would go spend time before the person departed. We would go and we would watch the planes going.
Oh, it was a big deal, huh?
Yeah, but even now,
dress up and all that stuff to go to it.
Yeah, you see how many people.
I remember the first time I saw somebody with shorts. See, these got these mics. You see, if you're not looking at YouTube, you're missing a whole bunch of stuff.
Don't look at YouTube.
So go to YouTube, Radio, okay, man.
Don't go to YouTube.
You can type my name. Don't type Dwayne because you got a whole bunch of, I think, audio torture. Susan says, yeah. She didn't say yeah, but she laughed like she said yeah. How about that? But anyway, so what are we talking about now?
But
so
even now, people will still go pull over by the airport and watch planes land and take off.
And that fence with the marl encrusted way on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it has changed. But anyway, you were going through some things and
we talked. I don't think we touched on it a little bit, but we didn't go into details about the thing about the crash, because we had a major crash. Not let's say no, it wasn't Cayman Airways. Cayman Airways had an incident, and I needed to find out some details of that because I was off island when that happened.
Yeah, that was
in
not a real
91. Yeah. But we had a major crash in. Mr. Norman brought it up. We had 10th of April 1953, and this goes directly to why our airport is named Owen Roberts Airport. I think everybody here knows about it, but don't really know why it is.
Right.
And Mr. Norman talked about Owen Roberts had bought. Owen Roberts isn't the first. He's a pioneer, but he wasn't really the first one. We talked about King Parker starting up on airlines. It was called Cayman Islands Airways. Was what I first called, and that thing only lasted about
CIA, right?
Yeah,
Cayman Islands Airways.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, and I wondered about that. It never took off. It was like less than a year it was in business. So it went under, had trouble. And Owen Roberts picked it up and bought the planes out, which were the PBYs, the flying boats. And he was operating for a couple of years, I think, with that. But he was instrumental in getting, these are all still land or sea landings. So these are sea landings.
Right in the North Sound, in the vicinity.
It's landing in North Sound, and basically the first little airport was a wharf and a little shack outside on the back of there. I guess maybe where the back of there.
In that vicinity is what I gathered. Right?
Yeah. And I think maybe the road that goes in back of CUC and all that led out to it. And I think it might have been even built. Or built up with the naval base personnel to service their planes. So all of that structure and infrastructure was in place, and the practices of refueling the boat and bringing the people to the boat, the tender and the ferry and the people back and forth. All that was happening with this new airline now that Owen Roberts built. What was it called again? Caribbean International Airlines, I think. Caribbean International Airlines, I think was
with the same acronym.
Yeah. Was it?
Caribbean International Airlines.
Yeah, another CIA operation. Anyway, but Owen Roberts, why he was instrumental, or why he's important, is he lobbied for the airstrip a land landing, not the sea landing. And the planes were low capacity. The seaplanes were low capacity, so he bought these Another World War II surplus thing would be the, what's it called, the Loadmaster? Lockheed Loadmaster. No, sorry, Lockheed Lodestar, which I think could be on one of those websites. It could be, those Chickapaw website. Anyway, the names. Anyway, boy, we miss Mr. Norman.
Somebody give us a check. All right.
Yeah. So he bought a Lodestar. He got Lodestars, and they're doing land landings. And the inaugural flight of these new airline and his new airplanes was taken off from Jamaica on the April 10th, Friday, 1953. And when they were taken off from Palisados, what do they call it? Jamaica Air Palisade. Anyway, the Jamaica, where the Jamaica airport is, it took off and it went about 200 feet in the air over sea, and it crashed, and 13 people died, many Caymanians. I think there's a Cayman West Bay family that almost lost the whole family was wiped out in the crash. And in the crash also that died was Owen Roberts himself.
An interesting thing, many people mistakenly believe that crash was here.
Yeah.
It wasn't here.
No. It was in Jamaica, and at the time it was Jamaica's worst accident in their aviation history. And it's now still the second worst. So, it's a prominent thing. But yeah, do we have? We have to do a break.
And we also have a clip to share too, right?
Susan is breaking crack. We call it crab. She's breaking crab leg.
Yeah, all right. Well, after a news break, so they have another clip that our wonderful folks at the National Archive shares with us. We want to share with you and other things. So share with us your recollection and your thoughts on the aviation history. Stay tuned for See What I Say.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman. We've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Cayman Brac's National Trust branch gears up to host its annual winter fundraiser, the Octopus's Garden Party. Committee chairperson Kathleen Bodden-Harris said there will be lots of food and entertainment, as well as the usual silent and live auction starting at 8 p.m. And after, the winner of the split, the cash raffle, will be announced. It all happens this Saturday, January 26th from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. at the Brac Trust House off North Side Road. Tickets are available by contacting 916-3960. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. U.S. President Donald Trump planned to speak about the government shutdown today as intensifying delays at the nation's airports and widespread disruptions brought new urgency to efforts to resolve the 35-day impasse. The event comes amid growing speculation that lawmakers and the White House are on the verge of reaching a deal to end the 5-week impasse. Ethiopia is banning street begging by Syrian nationals who have startled people by showing up in growing numbers in recent months in major cities around hotels and mosques. Some 560 Syrians entered between mid-August and mid-December, and the majority leave with their tourist visas expired. While street begging is not illegal in Ethiopia, the act of entering the country as a tourist and begging is. And 3 militia members face the possibility of life in prison for a foiled plot to massacre Muslims in southwest Kansas by blowing up a mosque and apartments housing Somali immigrants. At separate sentencing hearings for the men today, the government plans to play video clips of the intended victims talking about the impact the case has had on their community. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
See What I Say is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See What I Say?
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for sharing with us
Susan,
as we invite you to be a part
what does that mean?
Of our discussion. There's Ray next to me. There's Susan.
I'm just trying to find out the
there.
communication of our language.
949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. And as we look at aviation history...
I can only do motorboat.
Ray, when you look at this and all the stuff that you sent out looking through, what were some of the things that were striking you about aviation? For us in particular.
Well, I mean, the airboats played such an important part. And if people are listening and having... we hope people... You think people are listening after all this?
Well, I think my mother has, though.
Your mother has.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
It's a different. animal. There's actually still a wreckage of a Catalina PBY in the Sound, and that was during the commercial times. I think there was an accident during but a slight one during the naval base. I remember seeing something in there.
Right.
But this one was during the commercial airline, probably the 50s then. And there's also an incident where the tender, the little boat that they had, did you say it was Ben Ross?
Mm-hmm.
Ben Ross, and who was the other person in the boat?
You just said too, yeah.
We'll have to rewind the thing and hear. But they'd use a little boat to load the people in there, and they would tie on to it, and they took off with the boat tied to it. So, and it was, I guess, funny now, but if you were in that little small boat, it wouldn't be too funny. But if anybody knows the details of that, could they call in and tell us?
Yeah. I mean, something that you just shared that you were just discovered, so Mr. Norman's at the barracks. What are you?
Yeah. That's another direct link, the naval base, to the aviation history.
Another prominent member of our community who I think, as I was saying outside, there are some names that are very, very synonymous with aviation.
Well, not necessarily, but the thing also that Mr. Norman brought up was that the major crash that Jamaica had, their first one was at Avianca, which was a fiery crash and all that. That had 2 Caymanians on board. I didn't know that. Mr. Norberg Thompson and Mr. Rex Crichton were on that.
You see that?
They were a couple that survived because a lot didn't survive on that flight. Probably half of the flight died.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And
Caymanians are everywhere where there's trouble.
The first, when Captain Paul was referencing the 1939 landing, you have some information to share.
Well, give me a little chance to go through.
Yeah. Another notable gentleman reminds us of.
Yeah, Mr. Arch, a listener.
And I think that people need to appreciate that the sort of almost willingness to take for granted how easily accessible and how readily available, I guess, almost airline travel is now. The way people dressed back then was different.
Yeah, it was a big deal,
right?
Like I said.
But aviation isn't that old relative to, say,
commercial aviation.
Commercial aviation.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're thinking of 1939, or even as you're going to go back to even, 7 years earlier, I believe.
I'm not even going to mention when he says an excellent program today. I'm not going to mention
No, don't mention that.
Don't read that.
Please don't.
Okay, this is from a listener. The first aircraft in Cayman was in November 1932. James Webster and the British government chartered a Pan Am aircraft to overfly
Cayman, Hurricane, right?
Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, and to pitch to survey the damage from the hurricane and from Mr. Webster to check his ship, the Balboa, which had sunk in Georgetown Harbor. And then I didn't realize Balboa was a Cayman ship, Cayman-owned ship.
Yeah.
Didn't realize.
And you see, this is where all the history there links and little bits and pieces.
This links to that, and this Balboa is some town in a city in where Panama. Well, it's a South America, Central American city. Or no. Anyway,
okay.
There's other thing too. It's probably a person too.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
but equally, right,
tangents.
As we're looking at that, but this is where I think I am fascinated by the things you stumble upon.
Yeah, it's a goal.
Yeah,
I get tired. I get tired because, especially me going on my tangent, like you come across this and you're like, what? This did this, and you go here and who, what, who, he.
All right, so just take this little piece. You have the 1932 hurricane. Right. I think.
I didn't even think
when we look at that, and now just like we've seen with hurricanes recent, the government, the commercial interests are very, very prevalent in the thoughts of people. So the last big hurricane, did we not see officials up in planes and helicopters surveying? Right, looking at what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, 1932, almost a...
Yeah, we had it from then. Now we got drones and stuff. But blimps, we forgot to mention blimps.
Okay.
Blimps, we had blimps.
Yep.
But that was through the naval base, and it was linked. We actually touched on it on naval base.
We did.
We had reports of this blimp touching down or dipping down is what the reports were saying, that were coming back from our 4 spotter sites that we had on the island during the war. and the blimps were coming from Key West. They would touch at our naval base, and they would go on to Trinidad, I think, which had a big blimp naval base over there. So I got our blimp thing. That's your blimp information for today, folks, that we promised.
But as we look at the Cayman, and I keep thinking it's unfortunate that we're not sufficiently have all of our information centralized as yet.
No,
and there's a lot of it.
We not got it in. We not got all our information in.
Yeah. All right. Maybe pick up on that thing, but let's take this caller. We got a clip as well to play. Let's go back to our phones. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon again, Dwayne.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Welcome back again, sir.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I got some history about the establishment of the Cayman Brac Airport goes way back when, from the beginning. That area where the Cayman Brac Airport was built was in a swamp area, pond area, and the cliff rock with plenty more holes in it. And the men did those times never had no backhoes, excavators, bulldozers, anything like that, all manual labor. I talked with several of the people, a lot of them are dead and gone now. And they said they
But you still talk to me.
Pickaxe and shovels to dig out the holes, to mud out the holes, and they would hand pike those holes with beach rock.
But sir, they sound like they really want to get off the brac.
They would pike. They hard work, yes, hard work. Those poor guys went through when we never had no machinery. They dug out, excavated manually all the holes and piped it with rocks, and then continued like that. And I know
how long was that? How long did that take?
I'm not sure how long it took, but it was a long time. I know the late Mr. Selborn Lazary had a truck that was trucking material, and the late Mr. Alfred Scott, which is the father of the Scott's equipment guys in Grand Cayman, he was very instrumental as well. And one person that anyone could talk with today to give more details on that is Mr. Merlin Ebanks. Merlin Ebanks. He lives at West End, just next door to the Star Island restaurant. And Mr. Merlin worked hard on that same airport project, manual labor. And my grandmother's property, which where I was living, from where my house is on the beach side, that was called Kuda Sand Hole, and that used to supply sand and rock material, and quite a bit of rock and sand were moved from there to make the base for the airport, and loaded with Mr. Selborn's truck was loaded by about 3 or 4 men with shovels, no loaders or excavators or backhoe loaders those times to provide the material. So that's the history on how the airport was built. And right now, as it stands, roughly about probably 4,000 feet of the runway still has the pond right adjacent to it from the west end point.
Right, yeah.
Coming up, almost up, so they passed the rent-car, Theo Barden's rent-a-car business. So the pond is still there on the opposite side of it. And quite a number of birds habitate into that same area. So that was the most easily accessible place to put the runway. You would say, why put a runway in the pond? But they never had no machinery to clear up inland or couldn't get the land available.
Right.
So that's why we ended up with the runway right next door to the pond, or part of the
and is
pond.
Is Brac Airstrip right next to, is that the one you land straight? I'm trying to see what I'm confused with Brac or Little Cayman. Which one is the one right on the ocean, like right on the Iron Shore?
That's correct. Right on the tip of the island, probably only about 200 feet from the sea. Right, you're coming in over the sea and you touch down, right? And it's I think 6,000 feet straight runway from there, and about 3,000 to 4,000 feet of it still has the pond, wide open pond on the south side of the runway. Lots of mangroves and things. And I remember hearing this about Parker Seaplane. Yeah, that used to come in Cayman Brac and land.
Who was Seaplane?
Parker Seaplane.
Oh, okay, King Parker, yeah.
Yeah, King Parker, right. And I heard Mr. Norman talking about air traffic, aviation. Well, I track aviation, air traffic, like I track the ships and those huge amount of what passes through our area.
Right, yeah.
And we are one of the busiest areas in the Caribbean, Western Hemisphere for air traffic. For example, we have the Eastern Corridor, which is called the Maya Corridor, which comes over Cuba and passes about 20 miles east to Cayman Brac. That route has about 75 planes pass that within 24 hours. That is traffic from Miami, New York, Atlanta, Toronto, Canada, many places in the U.S. going to Chile, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Panama, and all those places.
Mm-hmm.
And overhead Grand Cayman, which is the traffic is passing from the western air traffic zone called the Heron that comes over Cuba and goes directly overhead Grand Cayman. For example, I did an observation. I was in Grand Cayman and I sat outside one night. In 1 hour, I counted 25 planes passing over in 1 hour.
Yeah, we could believe it.
Yeah, man.
Yes, but they're coming from San Jose, Costa Rica, Managua, Nicaragua, and coming from El Salvador, San Salvador, and Panama, all those central countries, Guatemala, going to Miami, New York, Atlanta.
Red and green lights you see flashing over.
Yes.
Middle of the night. We got a break?
All right.
Well, thanks for all of that, sir. I'm sure we're going to come back to you for your wealth of your knowledge. We want to do a trip or a show over in the BRAC too, so not sponsor. Yeah, you can sponsor too, but try to push to get that, no?
Yeah, man. All right, hey, thank you, sir. Apologies. Let's take our final break. We'll come back with another clip from our archive, and you'll be amazed at what's going to share. Stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Don't forget to tune in to the Super Jam show today from 4 until 6 p.m. as Radio Cayman will bring you coverage of the 2019 launch of the Lions Club of Grand Cayman's Binzarama fundraiser live from Mango Tree. Also find out how you can enter in the drawing for CI $250.
540 months.
16,425 days.
394,200 hours.
45 years. That's how long we've been committed to serving you, and we won't stop there. Over the years, we have proudly grown with Cayman, making a difference in the community. That's why we're here, to stand by you.
We are Cayman National.
And we thank you for standing by us for 45 years and counting.
Sports fans, tune in to Radio Cayman's Sports Extra show.
Hi, I'm Bruce Lee Colson.
Sports Extra.
This and every Tuesday night, right here on Radio Cayman. 89.9 and 93.9, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Sports Extra from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. Sports Extra.
Proudly brought to you by King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
It's the CMEA's 11th Annual Music Festival Weekend, coming January 25th to 28th, Heroes Day Weekend. 5 events over 4 days. Friday the 25th, catch the DJ Showcase.
Cayman Cabana.
Soul Karama.
Carib Cafe.
Reggae Revolution. Silverside's Dance Party.
Saturday the 26th, see the Young Musicians Showcase at 1 p.m. at the Hockwell Theater, followed by the Heroes Salute at 7 p.m. at the Havana Club. Sunday the 27th, don't miss the Music Awards ceremony at the Hartwell Theatre. And on Monday, Heroes Day, the live music showcase will merge with the Heroes Day ceremony in Georgetown for an evening of live local music. For more detailed information or tickets for the 11th Annual Music Festival, call 928-7665 or visit the Cayman Music and Entertainment Association on Facebook. Music Festival Weekend, 4 days, 5 events. Don't miss the celebration of Cayman's top musical talent.
Hi, I'm Dawn McLean Brady, President of the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, better known as CISPA. Small businesses drive Cayman's economy. As small business owners, we depend on government to create an environment where we, as entrepreneurs, can do what we do best, and that's to provide products and services that are valuable to our customers and, in turn, employ others. The cruise piers and cargo ports provide these opportunities. Encourage our government to build a port and let the Caymanian entrepreneurial spirit shine. Support the port, support our tourism.
How would you describe Siwa Sayin?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Siwa Sayin.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. We do have a clip to share, but we also have a caller that we want to very gracious and respectful to get to as well. Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, it's me again.
Yes, sir.
Hey, me again.
I just want to remind you about this King Parker seaplane that used to fly out of Tampa.
Yeah,
that was out of Tampa, and it's a song made on that. I was on the motor vessel Truxton, and the late William McLaughlin wrote a song about that entitled "The Cayman and the Flying Turtle."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a song I have given a copy to several people. I don't know why they didn't play, gave it, and they had the celebration, the Cayman Airways.
Because that's where the Flying Turtle, that links directly to the to Cayman Airways, no?
Yes, and it was the symbol was on it, the Flying Turtle. It's verified. I have a picture of it.
Wow, I'd like to see that.
It's verified, but you take a magnifying glass, you can see it.
If we find somebody breaking in your house later on, and probably me coming looking for it.
Okay. All right, just thought I would mention that, eh?
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks very much, man. I mean, Susan might work on magic, and when they actually hear it 4 days out, you never can tell. Yeah, so we gotta...
Oh, will you sing it?
Yeah.
You just got words?
Yeah, no,
Susan
can sing it.
Not gonna work.
All right, so really, you want to do the clip now before we get too much over?
Yes, what we have... hold on, let me find it. Info for it.
Okay. So, Miss Susan, just press the button so we can hear. It's going again. There it is. We can't hear nothing.
No, I can't.
All right.
But your job was checking in passengers.
And they would come up when the flight is in, do the manifest type in. Because a bunch of us guys didn't know nothing about typing.
Yeah.
Take us a year to type it.
Yeah. Was it hard to adjust to doing that, which is so different from what you were doing on the ship? No.
I never thought I could do it.
Yeah.
But I did it.
Yeah. Now, Ray tells me that when he worked at Pan Am, they used to have to find out roughly how much everybody weighed and how much the luggage weighed and figure out all kinds of
not
things.
For the international flights, but the Cayman flights. And some of the Americans, they didn't like that idea.
Really? So would you literally have to weigh the pair?
No, well, you think, when they wouldn't, that's where step on the scale and we'll see. Oh, you won't.
Oh, you'd have to ask them, and if they wouldn't tell you, then you'd...
Yeah, they'll give it in afterwards.
That is so incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, we saw a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Especially the women, they didn't want to tell me.
No, nobody wants to... Oh my goodness! So that was so that you could get the plane evenly.
Weight balance, yeah, for the
evenly
DC-3 overloader. If you did that, then they end up in the north south.
Yeah. Now, were you just worrying about the total weight, or you want to make sure that you have one big person on this side and one on that side?
Total weight.
The total weight was what you were worried about. And I thought that Ray was meaning that they had to decide where they were going to put the luggage and all this stuff.
Well, the luggage, you decide on how many pieces in the forward hatch and this and that.
According to the weight.
Yeah. But the people, unless they're, if they're like half of load, then shift them further back on it. Depends on how the weights are.
And you all would have to work all that out, would you? The ticket agents?
Norman and Ernie and a bunch of them used to do the weight and balance. And Mike Adams.
Goodness me.
No.
Now you have a computer that does it all.
Yeah.
And we hope it does it right.
It takes longer now doing it than nowadays.
I know, it takes forever to check in nowadays. Yeah.
Given a change is a killing to every young people these days.
Yes, yeah.
Some of them are awful.
And of course, in those days, all the tickets and everything would have to be written up by hand, wouldn't they?
Yeah. It's one type of business like they got now.
And did you have a departure tax and all that sort of thing in those days?
Oh yeah.
Now,
they didn't make a mess of it like they're doing now.
Yeah. I know they keep changing their minds about how they're going to do it these days. So you would, the person would come and they'd check in, and you would.
Well, you had to do everything.
Yeah.
You'd go help clean up the plane, cross seat belts, pull the boarding passes, make a head count. Because half the time you couldn't trust the stewardesses, they couldn't count. They make so much mistake. So we had to do it, make correct that we have the amount.
You would have to go on board and do a...
Yeah.
Really?
We had very often comments from the passengers, don't tell me you're going to fly it too.
They saw you doing everything else? Oh my goodness.
Even changing tires, sometimes we had to take off our neckties and go help the mechanic change the tires.
So you had to be able to do a little bit of everything?
Handyman.
Ray, as that reader she's
referring to, is it not me?
Is it not you, sir?
No.
All right, tell us about that clip, because I know some listeners will probably recognize
the what you call it?
There's compliments
of I think he's got links with Nicaragua too. But anyway, it was Mr. Ulrich Coe, and that interview again was also 98. Maybe they were doing something with aviation back then. Something was going on. Why they did all those? Because Mr. Norman's interview was then too. Anyway, so he was talking about the early days of, but that came in. Was he came in? Or he checked? He was. What again? Was he again? Laxa. But the early days of basically how the process of checking in and all that, you actually had to weigh the person. Because if you don't know, the weight on a plane is very, very important. The weight to fuel ratio and the baggage and all that stuff.
How much you can take off with
too. So I don't know. I mean, obviously the weight of the people, passengers must come into play now. But how do they get around? I think they maybe just estimate it. Because he's saying in his day, you might have to go on to the scale with your bags and all that so you can get a weight.
Well, I was looking at just last evening, and I don't know that this is exactly.
You're looking at your weight?
But airlines would allocate an average of 180 pounds per passenger, 10 pounds for carry-on, then they weigh your baggage, and then the number of passengers that create the weight. And of course, we got aviation experts that could tell us.
Yeah, and then you got kids and people who go more than 180.
Easily. Easily. All right, let's go to our phones, though. That's where we're going to go. Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. Very interesting program today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for calling.
Good. And, my family has been involved in aviation really from...
And your family would be who, sir?
The Adam family.
Oh, not the monsters.
No, there's a different one.
Okay.
Only one day, and no ass at the end. But my parents were involved in aviation in Jamaica, and then my dad was working for BWIA.
Yeah, if it wasn't for aviation, you probably wouldn't be here, no?
Well, I can't say that, but I can certainly say that because of aviation, my family had moved to Cayman. My mother was a Caymanian, and they had moved. She had moved back. My dad had moved here. The family had moved here in 1954 after the runway was built in '53, and then the very unfortunate accident in Kingston where Wing Commando and Roberts and several others were lost. So it goes back quite a ways, but it's interesting to hear Mr. Ulrico talking about the work of the dispatchers, you know.
Yeah.
Because, as far as I recall, there was Mr. Arnott Bodden was one, and then my brother Mike Adam was, I believe, the second one, and then the third one was Mr. Larry Tibbetts that got their FAA fully certified and fully qualified as dispatchers, which is a very important function. Weight and balance, fuel requirements, and all those various things for the flight planning of the airlines, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mr. Tibbetts is still involved in aviation, still very much involved in an airline there, Mr. Larry Tibbetts. And, it's amazing that the amount of Caymanians that got involved in aviation and rose through the ranks. I mean, my brother ended up, as you know, running Cayman Airways for many years.
Mm-hmm.
He had a full career in aviation, started with PWIA and then
and then you kind of had a career in it also, didn't you? Go and light the lights up on the runway.
Well, we used to, as children, you know,
the bonfire.
I was, I mean, we well, I was young, but my brother's a little older. Both of my brothers are a little older than me, but we all got involved in. If there happened to be a night flight, the runway was not equipped with electric lighting, so for the runway and the taxiways. So yes, it was a lot of fun. We would go and light these lanterns for the markers at the arrival end of the runway. You know, were green, and the departure end were red, and which in other words, the end of the runway for when the plane landed. And then we had to light the flare pots along the side of the runway. That they were, to my recollection, fairly large devices full of kerosene, and they stayed in place. And you went out and lit those, and then also the taxiway lighting was blue lanterns. But these were hurricane lanterns. You know, these were not electric. They were again.
And if you can reveal what time period that was, what dates, what years?
Oh, you know, I would have been a kid, and you know, I was born in 1955, so you can work it forward from there.
Can I?
But, because you know,
the 60s.
The schedule, the 60s, 70s, well, the 60s, I would say, 60s before they got the light. Because, this would have been the heyday of the 60s when the planes were coming in, but before the runway got that facility of electric lighting. But, you know, and then several of us got involved in aviation as youngsters ourselves. You know, myself and several others joined the flying school, and I ended up getting my pilot's license here when I was 17. I studied it here and in the U.S., and then was able to come back here and get it finished at the age of 17. I mean, at the time, I was the youngest pilot ever to get a pilot's license here. And still fly. You know, I have my FAA license now. I did that about 3 years ago. I started that, decided I wanted to try it again, and really enjoy it. Still fly occasionally here in Cayman and in the U.S., you know.
So I could use you as a drone pilot?
Do it for fun, and I mean, it kept me busy on the weekends because, you know, on the weekend I had a job with the flying school, and Dr. Paul and Mr. Don Armstrong, both of blessed memory, that they had the airplanes there, and I would go clean them, you know, and by cleaning them, every airplane I cleaned on the weekend, I got 15 minutes of flying time, and they gave me either dual with an instructor or solo, but I got 15 minutes for every plane I cleaned, so I cleaned a lot of small planes on a lot of Saturdays.
My house is pretty dirty, and if you need to do any reminiscing, I can give you like $3.
Yeah, I remember riding up there on a bicycle because, you know, I wasn't even 17 then. You know, I started learning a little bit, you know, like say my first logged flight, I was actually 14 years old. And then, but was able to get my license at the age of 17 and kept it up for a while and then stopped for a while and then started up again here recently and enjoying it, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people around that age and time that got into aviation here. People like, had gone before us, like Captain Bing Thompson, Captain Churchill Bodden, and a few others of that age had started even earlier. They started with PWIA, and some of them went on to work with Air Jamaica, and then came across to Cayman Airways. But then you had people like Captain Harrison Bothwell, that I think Captain Bothwell learned here when Don Armstrong and Dr. Paul, and I remember an ex-U.S. military pilot, Mr. Skip McSorley, was here, and he was an instructor. So they several other Cayman Airways pilots then rose through the ranks. Captain Kel Thompson, I think, Kel would have probably started here as well. So there's been a very interesting history and a very interesting path that many Caymanians have taken into aviation, and they turned out to be brilliant at it.
Yeah.
The same way Caymanians ended up being excellent seamen.
That's what I was thinking. It's kind of a crossover from that.
Yeah, whatever it was in us. I think you made a comment real early in the show that there are a fair amount of commonalities between being a good seaman and being a good airman.
Yeah.
And you're right. And as you mentioned, the terminology, fore and aft and port and starboard, those are all still very important terminology up to this day. The same lighting, for example, for the position lights. The port and starboard being red and green, respectively, and so on. That's in common with the marine industry, and of course weather. And understanding weather and
navigation.
Navigation, very, very important, and a lot of the whatever it was within Caymanians that made us so capable and competent in becoming good mariners, made many of us Caymanians become very capable in the aviation business. And
that's a good point.
Like me, some of us like me I did it as a hobby. Really, I did it for fun.
Really, you should just be a drone pilot. To me.
No, but I think what you should try, though, because I was looking at the commonalities and I understand that one of the biggest and perhaps most significant differences is that trying to mount outriggers on the plane makes it that little bit more of a challenge when you're trying to throw.
There you go. But I will tell you this, that I'm also a keen sailor when I do get the chance, and in recent years I've been involved sailing catboats and so on as well. So talking about outriggers and weatherboards and all that, weight and balance is vital if you want to get the best performance out of a boat. And you were talking a little earlier about weight and balance issues, and similarly, weight and balance, center of gravity, and all those things are very important to a boat. But of course, they're very critical to the flight of an aircraft. But things like wind and how wind behaves over an airfoil, same thing applies to sailing. You've got to understand what's going on with the wind, with the flow, and what the airfoil is doing and all that. So there's so much of this that is so ingrained within Cayman and its history, and there's also, you could put a whole other show on some of the interesting factors of how things came to be. Some of them just by chance occurrence. There, in the archives, you can read about the incident of how, with you were talking about Mr. King Parker and his airline using the Catalina PBYs. Eventually, that's what he changed to. Eventually, was using those. Well, in the archives, you read an interesting history of how, because of a bill owed to a mechanic in Miami, I believe it was, that ended up the plane got basically impounded there. And one of the Caymanian gentlemen who was a merchant here, that was one of the shareholders in the airline, realized just how vital the airline had become to the development of Cayman, and had taken it upon himself to go to Florida to see what he could do to get the airplane
was that the Marin?
Yes, Mr. Marin, Mr. Dukan Marin, yeah. And by chance, apparently, was in the airport waiting to come back, and having unfortunately not succeeded in getting the airplane released from being impounded because of the financial difficulties. As I understand it, by chance ran into Wing Commander Owen Roberts, who was at that time on his way to the Bahamas, intending to go to the Bahamas, and then the rest of the story. So they Cayman has been very blessed, and I would say God blessed by certain incidents like that enable us to continue to have air service.
Yes, sir.
Yes. That's kind of what me and Dwayne were saying. It was like all these little incidental things. one topic leads into the next, I guess.
All right. Hey, thank you, sir, for sharing. Very, very much needed. Any final thing you want to say?
Been a great show. Been great listening to it.
Thank you for contributing, and thanks to Susan for the extra 9 minutes and 43 seconds. We appreciate it very much. We took liberty.
How much that cost?
Yeah, it's easy to ask forgiveness, maybe. I don't know.
You know what that means? That means I got to lose out on a conch dinner. Is what that means.
Well, you might. Yeah. Ray, thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for calling. Thanks for listening.
And there's a lot more. There's an exhibition at the museum.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's a 50 years of 50-year anniversary of Cayman Airways.
Cayman Airways?
Yeah, Cayman Airways. Last year it was 50.
Yep, at the National Museum. And Susan will sing a song. I think she has it. And all of you, please enjoy the long celebration weekend as you celebrate Cayman.
Yeah.
There'll be no talk today on Monday. At least
I think that's a lot of people will be celebrating.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to celebrate. It made Susan fall off her chair.
Susan is laughing again.
I thought it was only me that could. Anyway,
I'm telling you something.
We'll get there. Enjoy
that's
your weekend.
Called passive aggression.
And we'll see you on Tuesday.
Not.
What do you think, Ray? Good stuff? All right.
Thanks again.
Have a safe, enjoyable weekend.
Saying.
See you next time.
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying. It happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
Jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman. A language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
See what I'm saying?
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner, think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
Oh, Cayman Moon.
The voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.